You got people that need you now. You got everything to lose. This guy's got nothing to lose.
I ain't got a choice.
That's the same thing your father said, and he died right here in my hands. Listen to me, this guy is dangerous.
But you don't think I could beat him?
I don't think you can, but I do think we have to start the show. Welcome to Cordkillers, our mission to report the intel from the front lines of the cord-cutting revolution so you have the information you need to be able to watch what you want, when you want, where you want, on whatever device you want. Oh, me, I'm just Tom Merritt, but this guy is Brian Brushwood.
Hey man, and that was Creed, and wouldn't it be great if he just couldn't beat him, and that was the whole story? Like it was like, well,
what if
I gave it a
Rocky
good
is
try.
like, listen, your girlfriend is a Valkyrie and also head of Delos, so you should probably let her fight instead.
Oh my God, I didn't even recognize on that. I've got, I guess, hopefully I'm upstreaming okay because the downstream on my Wi-Fi has me a little bit off kilter. So if I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about this time I get to genuinely blame technology.
It's the technology, folks. How you doing, Brian? Where are you?
Oh my God, I'm in Hawaii. We're finishing up our first real family vacation of longer than 5 days in 10 years or whatever. So last week we were on a cruise. So obviously, I mean, the Wi-Fi was garbage. There was no joining you. But this week we're at a rental house and we seem to be good on Wi-Fi. So hopefully we'll be good. I did find when you're out on a cruise on vacation, you don't watch a lot of television. Crazy thing. But so I did get caught up on all that stuff. We'll talk about it in spoiler in time.
And in all seriousness, fog? Do you have any of that volcanic fog going on?
Oh my gosh, we got to see it. We did a cruise, did a drive-by of the lava flow at twilight. As a matter of fact, I tweeted out about it. I realized, like, man, there's a lot of planets in the sky. So I opened up the atlas and I found out that it was hours before the summer solstice. The half moon was directly overhead. To the west was Venus. To the east was, or just to the east of the moon was Saturn, and Jupiter was rising. And in front of me, I was watching the fires of Mordor create new Earth right there with my kids. It was amazing.
Yeah, no, that sounds incredible. I'm really sorry I made you tell that story because it will make our primary target pale in comparison. But we are going to talk about movie ticket services.
Hey, that works.
They volcanoes of the movie industry. So I'm just gonna go through these 4 things, and then we can talk about the state of this stuff. AMC has extended its Stubs loyalty program to include a subscription service now called the Stubs A-List, $20 a month, starting June 26th. Members of the service can get up to 3 movies a week, multiple movies in a day. Including IMAX and 3D. Take that, MoviePass. Up to 3 reservations can be made in advance. And the plan also waives online ticketing fees and offers discounts on food and drink. Now, Business Insider reported after that MoviePass had told it that high demand pricing will come into effect in the coming weeks. In other words, titles that the service believe are very popular might cost you a couple bucks extra on top of your monthly subscription. In addition, the movie ticket subscription service Cinemia announced new family plans, which MoviePass says they're going to have soon. We've talked about that before on the show. Cinemia says plans will range to up to 6 people and up to 3 movies per month per person. A premium option would add IMAX and 3D. And if you don't know Cinemia, it actually works with Fandango and movie tickets and Atom tickets and is available in Australia, the UK, Turkey, Canada, and the US. Finally, Bryce found this right before the show. Alamo Drafthouse sending out a wait list for an upcoming Alamo Season Pass beta program. It would likely let users watch 1 2D film per day and reserve seats via the Alamo app. The beta program starting in Yonkers, New York, and users will see various price points as a means of testing how this whole thing works. So if MoviePass has done but one thing, it has spurred the subscription movie business plan across the board. I mean, there are others out there that we didn't mention today. These are just the ones recently making news. And now, Brian, I feel like to me, the question becomes, okay, does MoviePass become pets.com or does it become Amazon in this situation?
I got to be honest. If I was laying money, MoviePass is bleeding cash, and they had we'll say first in the mind advantage, right? There's being actually first, and then there's first in the mind. For example, I think it was I forget. Doggone it, RCA didn't make the first TV, Westinghouse didn't make the first washing machine, and Ford didn't make the first automobile, but they were first in the mind for all of those things, and MoviePass had that advantage. However, it came in from a very distant orbit to try to shake up this entire ecosystem. It bleeds cash to this moment and is desperately trying to win over share. To be honest, with so far their end game appeared to be, and then we'll tell people what to go see, and studios will pay us so that we can guide them with our huge user base. But it feels like all of these movie theaters, if they're playing the exact same game, then it feels like they've got so much of an advantage. I think MoviePass is going to get squeezed out. I don't see any way it can remain competitive with the people who own the distribution channels.
One of the competitive advantages MoviePass has is being a cross-platform. In other words, you can use it at AMC without being a member of AMC. So if you're the kind of person who's like, oh, I've got 3 different movie chains that I like to go to their theaters, MoviePass has an advantage. But then you have Cinemia, who's like, yeah, we do that too. And because we've been nicer about it, we work with Fandango and movie tickets and Atom tickets so that you can do things like advanced pricing. And we're not in there being combative with the theaters, so they're not out there trying to actively block us as much, I guess, as they are MoviePass. So either MoviePass bravado wins out, like you say, and because they have the mind share, they just become an unstoppable force. We've seen that happen before, or they just run out of cash and they blow up. But they have created this new marketplace of, well, you can either go with the walled garden in a chain you like, or maybe there'll be more Cinemias out there.
Yeah, so here's an important part of all the activities that we do week after week. I can't think of one that people get more into a steady groove of than their favorite movie theater that they like to always go to. And then the only time they don't go to their favorite movie theater is because either A, they couldn't get the tickets, or B, they're not showing the movie that they want to see at that time. So in that case, MoviePass's one quote-unquote advantage doesn't seem to me to be an advantage at all. Like I think people like to go to their one theater, and you'll just join whatever.
I have never been in a situation where I would only go to one theater.
Oh, no. I'm not saying like you would plant your stake in the ground and say, no, I'm an AMC man or whatever. But by routine, yeah, look, and my routine got totally usurped. There was one place I always went to movies first. It was always the Alamo Drafthouse on Slaughter Lane. And the only thing that upended that was when a movie theater literally opened up across the street from me, offering 90% of the things I like about it. So as a result, what I'm saying is I would not consider for even a moment going with a more expensive or even a comparably priced one program for the advantage of being able to hop around from movie to movie theater, especially if one of the things you give up when you do MoviePass is you have to care less about what movies you get to see, because you don't you have to show up at the theater? You don't get to book it way in advance, right?
I think Landmark and a few other participating theaters have integrated so that you can book in advance, but that's a big advantage of Cinemia, which is like, go to whatever theater you want, as long as it's in our program, and use Fandango. You like using Fandango? Great. Oh, no, you're an Atom Tickets person? Great. Use Atom Tickets. We don't care. We'll work with all of those.
Yeah. So as far as
I want to go back to that movie theater thing, because I'm trying to think back, and the only time I was ever in a situation where I would always go to the same movie theater, it was when I was a kid, because we only had the one in the town. But when I lived in Austin, I went wherever the movie happened to be playing and my friends were going. I don't even remember what the movie theaters were. We went to Alamo sometimes after it opened, but we weren't loyal to it. And all the places I lived in California, there would usually be 2 or 3 that we would go to. And it's the same now in LA. So I'm curious, because I don't think you're unusual, Brian, but I'm curious what the breakdown is. Like how many people are like, oh, I've got a usual one that I go to unless it's just not playing there. And how many were like me, were like, no, I've got more like 2 or 3 that I rotate around between.
Well, and cordkillers@gmail.com is where you could write in and tell us if you're on Team Brian. You find your favorite place. And you know what? I think that's another thing. Like when we go to fast food places, I'm the kind of guy who I'll dance around the menu until I've done it. I've solved it. I've figured it out. It's always got to be a number 6, no mayonnaise, substitute chili for the fries. Also, light ice, Diet Dr. Pepper. why would I ever change that? I've solved the riddle of what the best meal at Wendy's is. Likewise for movie experiences, I think I'm the kind of guy that is like, I don't want to think about, make those decisions. But here's the other thing. Even if you are the kind of person who jumps around, maybe that is a prime market for AMC or for Alamo or for any of these cinema-owned alternatives to try to lure you into becoming a regular with it, where it's just like, okay, well, look, we understand you like to jump around. How would you like to pay half as much or a third as much as you used to? And all you got to do is just, get real cozy with us. I think a lot of people would want to do that. And I don't.
No, I was going to say one thing people don't like is lock-in, though. So if you were like, oh, I only ever go to this one anyway, sure, that makes sense. But I don't know. I feel like people get bristly when they're like, yeah, but I don't always go to this one. And I know it's cool. As long as there is a Cinemia out there, I don't think that's as compelling. Or a MoviePass. Let's not kill them before they're dead. And so I think there's room for that. Whether MoviePass blows up or not, I think is less dependent on that side of the business model versus just they're running out of cash, basically.
Well, exactly. But also, not only are they running out of cash, but so far the only thing we've seen, and if, again, we're not behind the scenes, we don't know what they're working on behind the scenes, but the only attempt to monetize that they've done is this vague attempt to say, well, now we have a big user base and we could guide them to watch certain movies. We could cause certain movies who pay us money to become a success, which sounds insane because you have the maybe there's something I'm missing, but it sounds like their plan is.
You missed last week. When we talked about Gotti and how it's like 0% on Rotten Tomatoes and 40% of the ticket sales, according to MoviePass, came through MoviePass because they promoted it. They're like, who cares what the critics say? We got people to go to the theater and decide for themselves.
Well, and it's funny, but it's like, so Gotti paid MoviePass money so that MoviePass could pay even more money to cause everybody to go to the movie, which allegedly would make money for the movie Gotti. Like that doesn't
which
strike me
MoviePass
as...
owns a cut of Gotti. So,
okay. All right.
So they get money
that's
back.
Interesting. So
yeah.
Okay. So if they're being paid in imaginary dollars, if they're being cut in on the profits, then I can see that working. But my goodness, that's something that you need a long runway to get set up on. I don't know that I'm believing that they're going to make this work before they bleed out.
I'm guessing that Gotti paid them money to promote it. And then, of course, that helps MoviePass because they get a little cut of that in the end if it makes its money back. So
interesting.
Yeah. No, it's anybody's ball game right now. And by ball game, I mean movie theater business plan.
I did have one question for you. What is it that you think it's about this moment, this time, that caused this to happen? Because it seems like there are certain ideas that are just ripe and ready. And then when one person makes even a half-assed attempt at it, it just, everybody suddenly jumps in because we're moving very, very quickly. Considering I had never even heard of MoviePass, I think 7 months ago.
Well, no, we talked about it on Frame Rate way back in the day. Like,
wait, MoviePass back on Frame Rate?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow. It did not
back
stick
then
in
it was
my head.
$35 a month, and I think there was more limits on it.
No. Okay, that does make sense. I guess I'm thinking about it in terms of the astonishingly free or astonishingly affordable subscription service. Yeah. So I guess basically they tinkered around and then they found a price point that the whole world went nuts for, and because of that result, everybody else was able to take their backup plans and kick them into action, which is probably why we're seeing so much stuff happen.
Obviously,
MoviePass
so fast. Getting so many people signing up because of the cheap amount is what caused AMC and Cinemark and everybody, Century, to get the wheels turning on their own subscription plans, just defensively, if for no other reason. But I think one of the things that made MoviePass attractive is that people were saying, you hear this all the time of like, I'd like to go see movies, but it's too expensive, too inconvenient, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And MoviePass addressed a lot of those concerns in a market where the theaters need people to show up, where the movie industry is worried that attendance is declining, even as revenue rises, because the only reason they're making more money is not on rising attendance, it's on rising prices.
That's a really good point, because we have several times before talked about the whole fact that, in a world where many people have, gorgeous, 4K widescreen home theaters, why would you go to the movie theater if you're somebody who doesn't like crowds and all that stuff? And so I would assume that given a choice between giving up a giant chunk of their ticket revenues in whatever it is they make, because I know movie theaters make most of their money on the popcorn and drinks and hopefully, craft beers as they become more and more upscale. It seems like they could really quickly, when faced with a decision gate of being rendered completely irrelevant versus making very little money to no money on ticket sales, but at least they get to keep selling that popcorn, I think they could jump on that real fast.
Also, The Economist did a whole section recently about subscription being the hot new business plan across industries. Like the idea of, oh, if we get people on a subscription, they just keep giving us money and they rarely cancel, is like the hot new ticket. So I'm sure that feeds into this as well as sort of being amongst people out there like, oh, subscription plan, tell me more. That's I would like to invest in that. That's a hot commodity these days because of things like Hulu or even Uber and Lyft, even though they're not particularly subscriptions, this sort of like on-demand situation that MoviePass also plays into.
Yep.
So we would like you to subscribe to Cordkillers at patreon.com/Cordkillers, because subscription plans are the hot new buzzword. And forget I said that. That's not why. Why we want you is because we love you.
Yeah, man, it's a hot new business idea that we have. We're not planning to bleed out cash like a certain type of pass. Actually, it's called Cordkillin' Pass. And what you do is you pledge just $1 an episode, and you get unlimited episodes of Cordkillers. Also, we have a $5 plan that gets you unlimited episodes of Cordkillers, or even the premier extra triple gold bundle, a $100 per episode plan gets you unlimited episodes of Cordkillers.
Unlimited Premium Plus? Tell me more.
That's right. No, man, if you're not familiar, we set up your very own RSS feed where you're able to get all at once. In one RSS feed, you get the show, you get immediately afterwards, spoiler in time, and our special After Talk segment where we hang around and gossip and give you 10 more minutes of hanging out live in person, only we don't talk about movies. So if you are somebody who loves listening to Cordkillers and just wishes we would stop talking about movies, television, and cutting the cord, and boy, oh boy, do I have 9 minutes of extra footage you're going to love listening to.
Patreon.com/Cordkillers. And now, how to watch. So the first little bit on how to watch today is about the Roku. Apparently, Variety has some sources saying they're going to launch a marketplace app for video subscription services, so users can watch subscription services without needing to download the individual apps. This is something we recently talked about as being rumored for a feature for Apple TV. So again, everybody wants to get in on the subscription. And the meta thing is, if you're the platform for the subscription, make it really easy to subscribe on your app, and then all the subscription services will want to use you. It sounds like it would work similar to Amazon channels, to be honest. The Roku channel is already one of the 10 most popular on Roku. Right now it has free movies with ads and news. It's not clear if this new service would be integrated into it, but it would make sense if it was. Company also reportedly working on the next generation of its billing platform, Roku Pay. That would go hand in hand with subscription services. And if you didn't realize it, revenue from ads and services surpassed Roku's hardware revenue for the first time in the company's history in Q1. So this is really where their focus is as far as growing revenue going forward.
Man, this has been a long, long road for Roku to pave, and they are finally in a place to have the money highway come in. Because in the early days, they were struggling. When Roku first came out, we used to talk about this on the show, that I worried about it being just an underpowered PC that you're plugging in, and you're going to have stuttering and frame drops and all of these things that I associated with cheap hardware. Now we're at a place where all of that is so affordable that Roku, quite correctly, for the last 3 or 4 years, figured out, like, we need to make deals. We need to make sure that we are in every object, that we are the easiest, simplest option. Like, yeah, you could buy a gizmo, or, oh, wait, Roku's built into this television. And part of the Roku setup, because they do make it very, very easy for you to set up and configure your Netflix, set up your Amazon and all that stuff, it would be very easy, if they haven't already done this, thinking about this Roku Pay thing, is like, hey, we got Roku Pay. We're not going to charge you anything, but you might see a movie and you might just, wouldn't it be great just to click on it with one button? Why don't you just hook us up with that credit card information? And when that time comes, as part of the setup, you're now good to go on it. That could be an astonishingly powerful platform for them to monetize.
Yeah, imagine if Roku Pay has all of your billing information, all your subscriber information, and it just says on the Roku app, hey, would you like to watch Thor Ragnarok? Great. It's on HBO right now. Oh, don't have HBO? Click here. We'll sign you up for HBO now. You'll get 30 days free, and your billing information, everything's already in there. Yeah. No, it's
I didn't. Okay, so think about this. I wonder what their privacy agreement says, because if Roku is the portal through which you watch Netflix, Amazon, HBO, and so on, then they could also take a little peek-see at what you like. And then all of a sudden it gets a score of 97% likelihood you're going to love this movie. Hey, this movie's out right now. Just click this button. You'll never even notice the $9.99 we're going to charge you for it.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of recommendations engine certainly is something they'd want to take advantage of as they're collecting your viewing behavior. And again, in this day and age, that comes with a lot of like, we're going to tell you a lot about that kind of thing that we're collecting on you, but it's going to be worth it because we'll give you these great recommendations. So I thought that was interesting. The other thing I want to talk about is Fire TV Cube. Got mine over the weekend, hooked it up. This is the Fire TV 4K Cube with Amazon Voice Services built in. So you can just talk to it. You just say the trigger word, tell it what to do. It does pretty much everything that an Echo can do, except for the voice calling and the messaging, which they say they might bring to that at some point. But here's my problem with it, Brian. Two problems. One minor, one major. And one applies to everyone. One only applies to me and a few other people. The minor problem that applies to everyone is I noticed that sometimes if you say, hey, watch Death in Paradise on Netflix, it'll go to Netflix, it'll launch Death in Paradise, and it'll start with episode 1, even though you're on season 6.
That's interesting. That seems like something they'll smooth out in the future.
That feels like a skill issue with Netflix, where Netflix isn't properly telling it like, oh no, you should watch the most recent episode, and it's just sending the wrong thing. But like
I do know your other issue because I warned you about this before you even got it, Tom. For the life of me, I don't know why you set your Alexa or your Echo activation sound to a dog barking. I told you it's just going to be a bad idea.
Wow, that's a really horrible idea. But even after I turned that off, I had another issue, Brian. And that was, I already have an Echo in this room.
Oh, I was wondering about this, whether the two would like decide who's in charge.
So this is another thing that Amazon could fix, because it's all in the same ecosystem, but having them in the same room, when I say, turn on the TV, one of them says, okay. And the other one's like, I can't do that right now for some reason. And the reason is because the other one already did it. And the device that it's using to turn it on is
minor
busy.
Inconvenience. At least they're not like, one's turning it on or turning, because you remember the IR things, like when you use an IR blaster, if it doubled up, you would turn it on and then it would turn it off.
So I mute the Echo to try out the Fire TV, and I'm like, okay, Amazon, turn on the TV. Great. Turns on the TV, goes right to the Fire TV Cube. Everything's great. But I want to watch the Apple TV, and I have the Logitech Harmony Hub connected to a Amazon Echo, so that when I say watch Apple TV, the Echo sends a message to the hub, and the hub sends a message to the blaster. Now, the Fire TV Cube is meant to do that for you. It even has an IR blaster, but I didn't set that up. I just say to the Fire TV Cube, turn on the Apple TV. Here's what happens, and I'm not exactly sure why. It switches the input on the television to the Apple TV. It sends the command to the Apple TV to wake it up. And then as soon as I see it on TV and I get ready to start moving around with my remote, it switches back to the Fire TV Cube.
Okay, so
my guess. Do you want to guess?
Well, okay, just press pause on this. I just wish so bad that we had a time machine and we could send this screed of complaints back to 7 years ago on frame rate, where it's like so much of what we wish for is going through, and now it's like, well, this is a slightly inconvenient bit of minutia that
no, this is not in any way a deal killer. It's like, hey, when I talk to my devices, they don't always understand exactly what I'm saying. And how crappy is that, Brian? Like, 7 years ago, we're like, you can talk to, what is a Fire TV anyway?
Our AI bots have finally become teenagers, and it's they're smart and brilliant. So, we're proud of all they could do, but we just wish they would listen to what we mean.
I think what's happening is that the Fire TV is telling the Harmony Hub to switch, which it does. But because I'm using an HDMI switcher, maybe that switcher still sees that the cube is on and switches back. Or it could be that the Fire TV, because it uses CEC to control the TV, is switching the input as at the same time that the Harmony Hub is switching the input, which then causes it to switch back. I haven't quite figured it out.
Okay, so the first of your two issues, I think, does sound like something that'll naturally fix itself, because if by its very nature the cube is not picking up your place in the Netflix thing, that seems like a problem a lot of people are having, and that's within a week or a month they're gonna patch. This one sounds like probably only a Tom problem. I can't imagine a lot of people have that.
Me and a few other people, and the one thing I would say is legit is Fire TV is pitching this as a solution if you don't have any other solution. So that is the majority of people. But it's another example of a lock-in where they did not build this to work well with other things. It might work well with other things sometimes, but they built it to be the control center, and they didn't anticipate all situations. I don't think, as you're saying, that's going to be a deal killer for the Fire TV Cube. I don't think it's a reason not to even buy the Fire TV Cube. The interface is lovely. Picture looks great. I've tried watching some 4K content on it. Looks beautiful. I even did a little taste test with Death in Paradise, where I was watching it on the Apple TV and then switched over to the Fire TV and then switched back to see if I could see any picture difference, and they both looked really good. So overall, with my little weirdness aside, I think Fire TV Cube's a solid option. And if you're in the Amazon universe a lot already, especially if you got Amazon channels, it's got way more advantages than the other platforms out there.
Yeah, it's they do have to deal with the fact that we talked about this last time. The Echo feels like the default Echo feels like a kitchen device, and this feels like a living room surrogate or companion to it. But the problem is, I know in your house, the kitchen and the living room are both within earshot of each other. Mm-hmm. In my house, they're in the same, physical room as each other. So, like, weirdly, I probably would love this, but I can't do it because I'll run into that same situation.
Although my Echo that is causing the problem is right by the television. So the Echo in the kitchen is not the one causing the problem. In your house, you might be able to distance them enough, but it's a little harder because they kind of flow right in.
And they'll be equidistant. And the place where you spend your time doing the dishes, the best you could hope for is to be in between the two and have to turn to the right or turn to the left whatnot. So that's an interesting mushy middle problem that I'm sure they'll smooth out over the next year or so.
All right, let's talk about what to watch in Under Surveillance.
Not like real estate. It's all about location. Under Surveillance.
NBC continued its annual tradition of canceling the show Timeless shortly before the cast options expire on June 30th. Sony Pictures TV, which makes Timeless for NBC, had been discussing doing a 2-hour movie to wrap up the series, though so far the economics haven't worked out according to Deadline. But apparently the two sides are still talking. They haven't given up on it. Sony's also been trying to shop the show to other outlets, and no luck there yet either.
Timeless, we hardly knew ye, but then we got to know you some more, and then we decided we would hardly know ye.
Yeah,
but
there
then
has
we might
been
have
a
you
fan
back to
campaign
get
again.
to know you just a little bit more before never talking to you again.
You know what the problem is? Sony doesn't have their own original content play. There is no NBC Universal had CISO, they canceled it, but my guess is NBC Universal is developing some kind of play for this, and they do have the NBC app. Which is one of the reasons, we talked about that some of these things like Brooklyn Nine-Nine are flipping around from place to place. Sony has PlayStation View, which delivers other people's stuff, but they don't have their own service. They don't have their own network.
Hey, isn't this is tickling in the back of my mind a vague memory of it being illegal. Like I know in liquor and beer distribution, you have to have they think of it at like 3 branches, checks and balances. You got the maker, the distributor, and the retailer, and no company can own any 2 of the 3. Mm-hmm. And likewise, I seem to remember that 100 years ago in the early days of movies, wasn't there a case where like there was Paramount theaters that only showed Paramount content, and sorry, this is a Paramount town and you're only going to get Paramount.
Well, the classic
Universal
example
had
of
their
the
own
Fox theaters too. Paramount and Fox theaters are all over the country because they were owned by Paramount and owned by Fox, and they would show movies from other studios. But yeah, they got broken up because that was considered a monopoly. In the theater
do you think
system.
There's any possibility that somebody could make a case or that we're heading to a similar crisis where people freak out? They're like, look, I don't want to have 12 different $15 subscriptions. And then can you see?
Because the problem was if you had a Fox theater in a town, that was the only theater. And so the other movie studios, they could fix the prices against them, right? And they could also control rates for other things. With these situations, I don't think you get antitrust, because there can be as many video services as you want in everywhere. So there's always competition. And I don't think there's anything that says that it's not like the FCC where they're like, oh, you can only own so many television shows, radio, and newspaper in a particular town because we don't want you to control the media in that town. Again, it's the infinite web. So every town has every option. At least in the United States, right? When you consider geo-blocking, I don't think we run into a situation like that with these. In fact, it feels like it's more natural for Netflix model to apply to others, and the Sony studio feels a little behind, right? NBC is doing this. CBS is already doing this, and it looks like ABC may be playing around with this. It feels like Sony is becoming just a production studio, which would leave it out of the loop in that ability. Because honestly, this is no different than having a network and making shows. And sometimes you put those shows on your own network and sometimes you sell them to others.
Yeah. And also everything I remember from Sony says this is not out of character for them. You know, when they do try to, they're fairly balkanized. I remember a time in the late 90s when one division of Sony was making MP3 players and the other division of Sony was suing MP3 makers. It was a, Sony be Sony is all I'm saying.
There's a lot of talk that Sony might want to divest itself of Sony Pictures and sell it off. And in this day and age of everybody wanting to consolidate, I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen either. Amazon is going to do an animated series based on Invincible from Cory Walker and Robert Kirkman. If you know Kirkman from Walking Dead, Invincible was his first graphic enterprise before Walking Dead. Invincible tells the story of Mark Grayson. He's an ordinary teen, but whose father is the planet's Superman-like guardian. And then Grayson starts to get his powers and learns what it means to be a superhero. There are 8 episodes planned for the first season, but we don't have a date yet.
Is it a spoiler? Is this... hopefully this isn't a spoiler, but is this the one where it's what if Superman was bad, basically?
No, that's Irredeemable. That is not Robert Kirkman.
Irredeemable. Okay, yeah. Got it.
I often get those two confused too. In fact, when I first saw this story, I got really excited because I love Irredeemable. And I'm like, oh wait, no, it's Invincible.
Got it.
Yeah. And Apple has acquired the anthology series about immigrants called Little America. The series comes from Kumail Nanjiani, Emily V. Gordon, and Lee Eisenberg, and is inspired by the true stories featured in Epic magazine. It is one of only 2 Apple shows that already has a direct-to-series order, the other being Octavia Spencer's Are You Sleeping? Right we are so far down the Apple rabbit hole that we now have multiple series that are in green light stage and multiple that are in direct-to-series stage, but we still don't know how they're going to show them. All right, what have you been watching, Brian? I know it's not much because you've been on a cruise ship, so don't just say watching all the people.
Well, I did while we were on the cruise ship. I set on for the girls to rewatch Paddington 2. And by golly, such a charming, just pure joy from beginning to end. That movie is just the best thing on the planet. I also, the moment we hit land, we had some time to kill, so we did go see Incredibles 2. I have thoughts about it. And do you think there's a chance you're going to see it by next week, Tom?
No. It's a sad situation. And this is similar to Tom's got 2 Echoes in one room and a USB switcher. Tom's wife went to see the Incredibles 2 preview when Tom had to do a DTNS thing. And so now that Tom has
that was your window, huh?
Yeah. Well, I have to make time to see it on my own. And then that becomes a much harder.
That's a whole different budget. Right.
Bryce, why I haven't done pretend I'm dumb about Star Wars for Solo either, because I'd have to go see it on my own again.
I may go see Incredibles 2 over the weekend. If you want to talk about it next week,
Okay,
I can go see it.
I'll give some broad strokes. When it did the family stuff that resonated with our family, hot damn, it was white hot fire. It was amazing. It was great. It was fantastic. I would have enjoyed a few more surprises. Is all.
Okay. All right. That's fair. That actually tells me a lot without spoiling anything. Well, without spoiling anything that I wouldn't have been able to predict anyway, it sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, it was fairly transparent right from the beginning.
From the trailer,
also, I did spend in the last 16 hours here getting caught up on 4.5 hours of Deadwood and Westworld, so we could talk about those in spoiler time.
I caught up on Terrace House, Boys and Girls Next Door, or Boys and Girls in the City. I'm sorry, Terrace House Opening New Doors. There were doors. That's what I can't remember. Yeah. So I'm up to speed on Terrace House to the point where I'm like, oh, now I have to wait for the new dump of episodes. The other one I want to mention is a Channel 9 St. Louis documentary voiced by John Hamm called The St. Louis Browns, the Team That Baseball Forgot. It's about the St. Louis Browns, who were an American League baseball team in St. Louis, the second team to the Cardinals from 1902 all the way until 1954 when they moved to Baltimore and became the Orioles. The thing about them is the Orioles acknowledge nothing about their Browns history. The A's in Oakland, they talk about the Kansas City A's and the Philadelphia A's a little bit. Baltimore changed the name and pretended like they were a brand new team because the Browns only went to the World Series once and they lost. And they were pretty much awful through the majority of their existence. But it tells the story of why this club had fans, how they owned the stadium that the Cardinals played in and still failed as a team, even though you'd think, oh, well, they own the stadium, they should be raking it in. It's a really well done documentary. And of course, John Hamm reading a phone book would be pleasant, I think. So that is just an extra perk.
Right on.
What are we on the lookout for, Bryce?
Hey, John C. sent in this recommendation a little bit ago. He wrote, "Hi, Tom, Brian, Bryce, and no guest today. I started watching A Shot in the Dark just this week, and I'm really enjoying it. The show takes place in Los Angeles and follows 3 main characters, and they are stringers. If you saw the movie Nightcrawler, that's what a stringer is, someone who goes out and at night racing to the scene of crimes, fires, car accidents, shootings, stabbings, etc. And they're all trying to get to be the first person on the scene, capture all the good footage of the story, and then package it up and sell it to the local TV stations. The stringers are trying to get a hit, quote, a hit. It's a high-paced and competitive business whose footage will get the most hits. Shot in the Dark is on Netflix. 8 episodes are available right now. Thank you, John C. Yeah, I think I watched the first episode of this. This was one of the first Netflix originals that reminded me, oh yeah, Netflix is like trying to do like cable reality shows, and there's definitely going to be an audience for this. If you saw Nightcrawler at all, you have a good sense of what these people do and how it is pretty unpredictable. So that it sounds like a good. Have either of you guys seen A Shot in the Dark or Nightcrawler?
No, I haven't. Although it's a really interesting ethical place, because is it a public service what they're doing, or is it ghoulish gawking that they do? You know?
Yeah. Well, and Nightcrawler,
that's
Nightcrawler has its own interesting spin on it. I think I saw Nightcrawler on Netflix, so it might still be there. But check both of those out: Nightcrawler and Shot in the Dark.
I know that stringer comes from when the press used to string together the stories they would sell to a paper as a freelancer on paper, like literally they would use string.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Thank you. And if you got something we should be on the lookout for, email us cordkillers@gmail.com. Now, Brian may be on a family vacation, but that doesn't mean the business stops, does it, Brian?
No, man, that's been one of the most fascinating things. It is so amazing to have an incredible team keeping the engine running. Even this is the longest I've ever been able to step away from anything. It's been wonderful. Meanwhile, while I've been out, we did a whole week of articles over at themodernrogue.com, a special Rogue v. Rogue week, where they paired up some of the greatest characters who played rogues in all of cinematic history, like 80s cops. You got Riggs versus McClane for what are all the others? I can't read all those.
We got Trinity versus Aeon Flux, Barry versus Dexter, and then earlier in the week was Arya Stark versus Wesley.
Oh, that was the tough one, man. That was what do you think, Tom? Arya Stark or Wesley from Princess Bride?
Arya. She's got the better footwork. Yeah.
I know, but he's fighting for true love, though. I don't know. Anyway, the articles are fantastic. They're all at themodernrogue.com. Just dive in. Start reading them. You're going to love them.
Let's move on to the front lines.
Front lines.
Oculus TV launched an Oculus Go today. It integrates existing VR apps like Netflix and Hulu alongside new offerings from Red Bull TV, Pluto TV, and Facebook Video. If you connect your Facebook account, Oculus says it gives you the equivalent of a 180-inch television. Now,
would you say that's accurate? Live on the scene, cyberspace, we go to Tom Merritt. Tom, can you verify the size of the non-existent screen that you perceive to be floating in front of you?
I mean, it looks like it could be 180 inches, I suppose. I can't really measure it. There's a lovely mountain scene with pine trees out there. But the thing that throws me off is when you play Pluto TV or Red Bull TV, you stay in this room with the lovely gray throw pillows and you watch it on this big screen. If I click Netflix, it kicks me out to the Netflix app. Although when I quit the Netflix app, it does take me back into this. So it's not exactly directly integrated.
So if you're agoraphobic but have always fantasized about going to a mountain hilltop and watching a sunset but ignoring that sunset so that you can watch a movie while you're sitting outside, man, oh man, do we have the product and or service for you.
And that sunset will just stay there.
Meanwhile, Disney has raised its offer for most of 21st Century Fox to a total value of about $71.3 billion. That's up from $52.4 billion and worth more than Comcast's competing bid worth about $65 billion. Comcast's bid is all cash, while Disney will offer Fox shareholders the option of receiving cash or Disney stock. Fox has postponed a July 10th vote on the offers from both companies in order to examine Disney's new bid. Executive Chairman at 21st Century Fox, Rupert Murdoch, has issued a statement praising the Disney deal.
Yeah, Murdoch seems to favor the Disney deal, and it looks like Disney's doing the effort to be able to convince the shareholders, you can accept this without causing shareholder lawsuits. We're going to give you some cash. If you want cash, you get cash. So it looks to me right now like Disney's probably going to get the parts of Fox that are for sale, but you just never know. Variety and The Hollywood Reporter say that the new Star Trek shows are being planned as part of Alex Kurtzman's new 5-year deal with CBS. Remember, Kurtzman's taking over Star Trek Discovery. Variety says the shows being considered include a Starfleet Academy series from Stephanie Savage and Josh Schwartz. They're the folks who did Marvel's Runaways, also did Gossip Girl. A limited series based on or around the Wrath of Khan. That's been kicking around for a long time, as has Starfleet Academy, to be frank. An animated series might be under consideration. And Patrick Stewart recently told Red Carpet News TV that he had not seen Star Trek Discovery, but that he, quote, may have good cause to look at it very soon. So nobody knows what he means by that, whether it's like a guest appearance on Discovery or some new show or whatever.
Turns out he's got a niece or a nephew who's just going to force him to sit down and watch. He's like, he's really into Trek. He's going to I may have reason to watch it soon.
Yeah, she's going to make me watch it, so I guess I'll have to.
AT&T's new internet service, Watch TV, is slated to go live with 31 TV networks, including AMC, HGTV, Hallmark, and CNN, with Viacom channels expected to be added soon. Watch TV subscribers will also get access to 15,000 movies and TV episodes on demand. Watch TV will cost $15 a month or free if you subscribe to one of 2 new wireless plans. AT&T Unlimited and More, which started about $70 per month, and AT&T Unlimited and More Premium for $80 a month, which throws in a music or video subscription service free, HBO, Starz, Showtime, Pandora, or Amazon Music.
Yeah, so this is the one we heard about when he was giving testimony. Randall Stevenson, the CEO, was giving testimony. So it's going to launch this week, seems like, and it's mostly the Turner networks from Warner Media, along with a few others in there like Viacom.
Man, a lot. We're spoiled for choice.
Yeah, too much choice. And some of it is unlimited and more premium choice. ProSiebenSat.1 Media and Discovery Incorporated plan to build a German TV streaming platform that sounds a lot like a German version of Hulu. The partnership would be based on the existing 7 TV alliance formed last year between the two companies and would combine ProSieben's Max Dome video on demand offering with Discovery's Eurosport player. European competitors RTL and German public broadcaster ARD and ZDF have been invited to join ProSieben and RTL to compete head-to-head in Germany. I'm sorry, would have been invited to join, even though they compete head-to-head in Germany. Germany is the largest TV market in the European Union, and the hope is to launch the service in the first half of 2019. And they say they want to have 10 million users within the first 2 years.
Man, we get a lot of international viewers and listeners, and I'm digging that there's increasing news for us to share. I'm sure Canadians are still howling that there's not enough positive news on the Canadian front, though.
One of the reasons this caught my eye was Hulu is unique. You don't have Hulu type service where multiple broadcasters are combined in one service. So I thought it was interesting that in Germany they're trying to gin up something just like that.
Yeah. And finally, CBS announced its partnership with the NFL has been extended. NFL games will stream through CBS All Access and start streaming on mobile devices this season. Oh, man. How far? I assume there's too many existing deals, but I'll bet the NFL would just love to pull everybody into one big NFL app channel funnel. Like nothing but NFL in that.
Yeah, well, that's what the MLB does, but they still have to honor these other deals. So it's easier said than done. And you want to get that money, right? You want to get that money from those broadcasters. They're willing to pay you a lot of money. Well, the significance of this is Verizon no longer insists on exclusive on mobile, which has led to the NFL being able to reconstitute these kinds of deals, which make it easier for you as a fan to go, wait a minute, I pay for CBS All Access and I can watch it on my laptop. Why can't I watch it on my phone? That kind of stuff is finally getting unwound.
Yep.
Let's move on to get our dispatches. They're from the front. Anthony from Houston wrote in and said, hey, killers. Last episode, Bryce said it might be time to bring The Wizard of Oz back for another adaptation. And Anthony reminds us, hey, don't forget, last year they canceled an adaptation on NBC called Emerald City with Vincent D'Onofrio playing the wizard. It was a fantastic show, but sadly, no one watched, probably because no one heard of it. Felt like I needed to write in for a show that didn't get enough love despite how good it was.
Kevin writes in saying, hello, employees. And I guess this is something you guys talked about. Living in Oklahoma, 2 minutes make a huge difference when it comes to a tornado, except it's not your weather updates that make the difference. It's the tornado sirens. Unless it's sunny, noon, and a Wednesday when the sirens go off, you take cover and grab your tornado beer and go for a look outside. I love the fact that a tornado beer is probably a known thing in that area. And then we also got another comment from, I can't read who it's from on here. There we go. It says, hey, Cordkillers gang, just wanted to respond to the conversation you had last week about live TV and severe weather updates. Here in Oklahoma, local broadcast TV is by far the best, most accurate, and timely information available during severe weather events. Not only can they track circulations down to the street-by-street level, but it's not uncommon to have a meteorologist say something like, the National Weather Service hasn't issued a tornado warning on this storm yet, but we can see the circulation here, and a warning will be coming shortly. In fact, when a threat arises, the local radio stations actually simulcast the TV stations. These local TV meteorologists actually become almost folk heroes around here and are household names. That's fantastic. In fact, I wasn't there for the conversation, but when I read these letters, it reminded me I was speaking to my cousin who lives here in Hawaii, and when the unfortunately false alarm, the unfortunate false alarm of the missile attack happened, the first place he went was, he didn't Google it. He walked over to the television and when he saw that they were still running regular programming and nobody was busting in on the local news to talk about the fact that they were under imminent threat of a missile strike, he began to suspect that maybe he didn't have anything to worry about.
Finally, Nikki Marson wrote in and said, hello, Tom, Brian, Bryce. I have a few quick things. First, I will be giving up Philo service and Hulu Live and going back to Sling TV. Now, Philo app is wonderful. I'm almost regretting giving it up. The UI on tablets and Roku are great, very user-friendly, and my favorite fast-forward options, a screen cap version. I loved it for Into the Badlands, The Daily Show, and Guilty Pleasures from MTV. For those who enjoy these shows, I would seriously suggest subscribing to Philo. Finally, HBO. I think they might have just broke the system. I got the Hulu $5 a month HBO subscription for 6 months. This is something that used to be something cable companies get, but depending on your location, impossible to switch, etc. With the option of the new add-on service, HBO could give Hulu a 6-month deal and then offer Amazon a 6-month deal and then go to Sling, then go to Dish, then maybe YouTube, then even just HBO Now's deep discount. This could easily give you 1 to 2 years of consistent subscribers by someone like me switching my source of HBO, but taking advantage of the discount. Could this be the next big thing for add-ons like Showtime and Stars? So Nikki's suggesting you just keep switching to different providers so that you keep getting the trial version of HBO, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, also in breaking news, you can keep making new AOL accounts and you can keep getting internet for free 30 days at a time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is a little bit like the chicken challenge of the cord cutting world, though.
Yeah, no, I think so.
Thank you, Nikki. And thank you, Brian. We miss you, but we're glad you're back, sort of.
I miss you guys. I can't wait. I was surprised that I was sitting here doing the show and I just thought we were talking about the Alexa and I was like, I was talking about my Echo device and I thought, I miss my Echo device. I miss my office. I miss consistent air conditioning. There's all these things I want.
Well, you'll be back soon. In fact, next week, and you can join us then as well, folks. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live on twitch.tv/Night Attack, which is also carried on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We'll catch you then.
Hey guys, Brian and Tom here, and it's just the same old message at the end of the credits, just like always.
That's right, Brian. Nothing new here except your name showing up.
Oh my gosh,
because
I've got a
you
name.
just supported us on Patreon.
Yeah, all those $5 donors, look at that. That's your name in pixels. We're gonna make you famous, kid. Put your name in pixels on the
classic
internet.
names in there, but some of you are new. Some of you aren't there. It's sad. What can they do, Brian?
I mean, they could go to patreon.com/cordkillers and pledge $5 an episode and be one of these amazing people, like this one. Oh, look at that name right there.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.